Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Jude Explains. Woo. I feel like I should put some things on, like crazy things, like fireworks and all that stuff. Pimp it out. So, anyway, this episode is just a little thing I called being vulnerable and the power of being vulnerable. Oh. So here we go. Being vulnerable. What is being vulnerable? What does being vulnerable mean in society today? And I feel like for a lot of people in this world today, being vulnerable equals feeling like you're being weak, showing emotions and expressing yourselves. And it's considered to be a bit of a taboo for most people. And I have been in that spot. I've been exactly like that, where I felt like I can't be vulnerable, I can't be open and honest with how I feel and who I am 100% of the time because people are going to judge me, I'm going to judge myself, it's going to be terrible, things are going to go terribly if I express how I feel, I'm not going to be loved for being me and expressing me unashamedly me. So, what I have found though in that beauty of being vulnerable and opening up and expressing yourself, even though it really hurts, even though it feels really hard and you're shaking and you're like sweating and you're like, oh my god, if they don't agree with what I say, then oh my god, it's going to be the end of the world. Even doing those things and even getting past that, and even sometimes having the rejections that I've had, and people not loving me and accepting me for who I am, it's still been a really powerful thing, and it's still made me just understand myself more and be okay with who I am. So yeah, this is being vulnerable. Being vulnerable and opening up is actually a lot more powerful than closing yourself down and being stoic and keeping things to yourself, which is what a lot of people do these days. It's what society's conditioned us to do a lot of the time, is don't express yourself, especially for men. Don't express yourself because that's not manly. And women, oh, if you express yourself, you're being emotional and all over the place. And that's just not the case. Sometimes you're expressing yourself because you just really feel the need to express yourself. And you're allowed to do that. I'm not gonna lie, you're allowed to do those kind of things. It's absolutely fine. So, why is being vulnerable so powerful? Because when you are vulnerable and open and honest and expressing exactly who you are showing your true self, and you're not being anything other than you. You're just being yourself. And by being more yourself and being okay with being more yourself and not judging yourself and not feeling judged by others and letting go of all those kind of things, you're actually gonna have a better life. If I can say it like this, and I can tell you that is 150 million% happened to me, that I have been vulnerable, I've expressed myself, I've felt that fear of, oh my god, if I'm going to express myself, nobody's going to love me, I'm going to be alone, all these things that come in my head. And one, it's not happened. Two, it's just made me feel better about myself. I'm like, oh, that wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. I thought that would be a lot harder. And I've been vulnerable and open and honest in a lot more ways than I have in the past year, than I have in the 30 something years that I've been alive. And by me being more open and honest and vulnerable, I'm allowing other people to do the same. So there's so much power in you doing it for yourself, but also knowing that it has this, wave effect where people around you are just like, oh, well, if she's being honest, if he's being vulnerable, then that gives me permission to be vulnerable and honest and express how I feel and be okay with how I feel. And that's just such a much more powerful thing than everyone kind of closing themselves off and being all like, no, not talking about it, don't talk about it, we just ignore it, we just push it to the side, everything's okay, nothing to see here, nothing to see here, you know, that kind of thing. So my experiences with being vulnerable have been very interesting. But I think there's two that have really kind of made me aware of how important it is to be like this, and how every time you are vulnerable, you get a gift from it. You get something from it. You get an understanding of yourself. You get an understanding of others, of what's going on in your world. And the more that you are kind of playing that detective game and just being like, oh, what does this mean? What does that mean? Being a detective, it just really does help you, and it helps you to kind of figure out what's going on in your head, what's going on in your heart, what's going on in your body. And being more in your body is so much more important than being in your head. Trust me, guys, I've been there, like, so long. So my experiences were, I remember a couple of times being really vulnerable with these guys that I had a crush on. You know what it's like. You have a crush on a guy, you kind of get along with them, and you're like, oh my God, I really like you. And I just have to say something, because if I don't say something, I'm going to regret it, right? But you're absolutely scared, like poop in your pants scared, like, oh, I'm not sure about this. This is not so good. That kind of scared. And when I've done it, and I've confronted the guy and said, look, I really like you, and look, I'll be honest, in both cases, got rejected, which is fine, which is okay. And yeah, I was really upset, and yeah, I felt really awkward and weird for a couple of days after, but you know what it did? It helped me to move on. It helped me to be able to get past being in that, what if he does like me? What if we will have babies and get married and all that crazy stuff that goes on in your head? And it just allowed me to be able to go past that. Okay, he doesn't like me. That's fine. There are plenty of other people in the world that are going to like me. And to work on myself and work on those kind of things. So just knowing that every time you are open and honest and vulnerable, and whatever feedback you get, whatever way people interact with you being open and honest and vulnerable, is just a gift, is just a way of you being like, it's all good, I know what's going on, or oh, I need to, oh, this has come up and this is why, like, oh, they're acting that way, so what does that mean to me? How does that make me feel? And just really understanding yourself and how everything in this world connects back to you. Just like with my judgment video, everything comes back to you. It's so simple. It's like everything that happens in the world always comes back to you, and always comes back to how you feel about it and what it means to you. So how can you be more vulnerable? I guess first things first is, I would say, admitting things to yourself and not pretending that nothing is happening. Like, oh, I'm in La La Land, everything is amazing, everything is awesome. Just admitting feelings to yourself, admitting how you feel, admitting what's going on, write it down, journal it, do whatever you need to do. And then find somebody, if you want to tell. Like, it's just the funniest things that you think are so important and so frightening and scary, and if somebody knew that, you would be so embarrassed, and you tell people and they say, oh, is that it? Like, that's no big deal. And you're like, oh, I was worrying over nothing. And it just makes you feel connected with other people. That's the power of vulnerability, is it helps you to connect with other people. So writing down things, how you feel, if you want to express how you feel about things, what's coming up for you, and just make sure that you are aware when you are being vulnerable, when you are coming from a place of love, and when you are coming from a place of fear. So there you go. I hope to see you next time I do an Explain Jude, Fearless Jude video. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.